We're cranking up the engine, letting the servers around the world feel and receive our bits and bytes, and then transfer them to your device so that we can connect. I think we're live. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Hug
I
Nation Live, and
I am John's partner, taking responsibility for him being late today because he was helping me with Christmas shopping because he's the best partner ever.
thanks, babe.
Yeah.
Best excuse ever.
Hi, everybody.
Before
Grateful.
you head out, do you want to say anything you're grateful for?
I can't think of a thing. Just kidding. I am grateful for beautiful fog this morning with the light is pretty and the plants are happy with all the moisture. I'm grateful for partner of my dreams in the home of my dreams in the life of my dreams. That's all.
Okay, I forgive you. I love you.
Love you too.
Good morning, good day, whatever time it is where you are. Can you turn the heat off? I'm grateful that I think that does make us finished with our shopping. Doing a lot of custom gifts today. In fact, I want to show you what I got for Lisa. It came in the mail yesterday. She doesn't, so she's not going to watch this broadcast. Although from my statistics, it looks like there's nobody here. So maybe I'll wait a second in case anybody wants to join us. I did get us a late start. We were busy creating some custom presents. Can you see the light over my shoulder? That is a custom light art by Pierre, who often pops in for our love mornings. And it's super cool. It's even cooler up close. Good morning, Gerbot. I am grateful for a productive day yesterday. I edited a number of these morning broadcasts, and I took like some of my favorite little clips from the past week and turned it into a podcast. So if you are subscribed to the Hug Nation podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever, I uploaded a new one last night, and it's some fun clips from recent days, including the question a couple of days ago about taking a spiritual cleanse. I'm grateful for this time of year, and I'm grateful that I think I'm nailing it on custom presents. I think I've been making stickers and like custom stickers for people, and I think I'll hold off on sharing what those are, but kind of figuring that for me, in this era of Amazon wish lists, I am uninspired by holiday gifting. As you know, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're watching this archive. Maybe you're from the future and this is your first exposure to me, John Halcyon Stin. Well, I am a gifting enthusiast. The gifting principle from Burning Man changed my life. And so I have really reoriented my life into looking for ways to gift, because I know how good it feels to give someone a gift and make them feel better. But the holiday season is a distortion, because if there is an obligation to give a gift and an expectation of reciprocity, it is not gifting. It's a transaction. It's a form of barter. And it's not like painful or horrible. It just lacks so much of the magic of true gifting. So I don't get that excited about holiday gift giving or even birthday gift giving. I think it is so much more magical if you see something or have an idea to make something for a friend or a family member anytime, because then it is free from all the obligation. It is free from all of the transactional nature. It is just a true gift where they go, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, I saw it and it totally made me think of you." That's that feels so good for both receiver and for giver. And so, that's one reason why I made the shopping list of friends who are offering gifts like books or jewelry or whatever, because if you do feel obligated to get a gift, at least you can add to it some of the gifting joy by buying from an artist, because then you're gonna make their life better, and you can make their life better and the recipient of the gift. So instead of so this whole I mean, that's always been the case for Christmas for as long as I can remember. But with the ability to just make a list on Amazon for anything you want and have people you can just tell people, "Hey, this is my shopping list," and they go, "Click, click, buy it, send it to a friend." It's like that I mean, don't get me wrong, I like getting stuff, but there's so much of the relational magic, so much like, "This made me think of you," or, I have this, I love it, I think you would love it." Yeah, so and added to that, we live in a time where anything we want, we can click and buy it online and have it there in a few days. So it's not like, when I was a kid, we would have very periodic visits to Toys R Us. And so getting a toy, it was a big deal and few and far between. Whereas as a grown up, if I think, "Oh, you know what?" Like, I just bought, some I think I mentioned them yesterday, these remote control, outlets, so I can control all the lights in the TV room, and then one for the outdoors. When I showed Lisa yesterday that we could now turn on the twinkly lights in the courtyard that are really beautiful with a click from not going outside, because you used to have to go outside, and it was an outdoor outlet, and, like, it was really and so it's, like, just not worth the hassle. She was so happy, and that felt like a gift. Like, you were not expecting this. You didn't know that this was a possibility. It's it was a friction in our lives, but not one that we even knew there was a solution, and I found the solution, that was the gift, and she was delighted. But I didn't wait until Christmas. I just because that's how we at least me, that's how I live now. If I think there's something that will make my life easier or better or more fun, click. If I can afford it, I buy it. So then Christmas comes along and it's like, what do we want for Christmas? Lisa and I sat down a few weeks ago to make a Christmas list for our family, and it was hard. And it actually that process was so beautiful, and it made me feel so good. That night when we were having dinner during grace, I said, "Thank you for a life where we have to struggle to think about what we want, what was missing from our lives." So, with that, I encourage everyone as you are falling into the mandatory obligations of transactional gift giving this season, see if there are ways that you can add joy to it. Can you think of a coupon for your parents that they would love, or a piece of art you could make for them? or some time you could spend with them. I made a slideshow for my mom from, you know, 50 years of Christmas pictures that I know she's going to love way more than if I tried to anticipate a sweater that she might like. I made fun stickers for a bunch of people in the family that even if they don't stick them anywhere, it will make them laugh. And I have a place that I order from where you can just get 10 stickers for $10, like as a sample, which is a pretty good deal. If normally when you order stickers, you have to buy a bunch and they cost a lot. But 10 stickers for $10, that's a pretty inexpensive gift that has personalization and it's fun. Okay. My point is gifting is transformative, but it takes effort to keep the gifting magic intact in the holiday season. So if you have ways that you're doing that, I'd love to hear them. Let's share and help and inspire one another to deck one another's halls in boughs of holly. La 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 la. Good day, everyone. Hello, Sabodnik asking, today is Saturday. What are your plans? Well, I have a Christmas or a holiday party tonight with the Wholehearted Chorus. It's a get together for the people that I spent 6 months practicing and singing with, the chorus that Lisa organizes. In fact, I don't think I can tell the details, but she booked the venue for next year's concert, and it is going to be super impressive, super beautiful. Good morning, Gerbot. Sabodnik in Siberia says, it's a wonderful day, and we wish you the same because their Saturday is coming to an end. We've already had a beer. Well, cheers, and thanks for saying hello. It delights me to no end to have this like visceral sense that this gathering we're having right now is connected literally around the world. Gerbot says, I'm still a Toys R Us kid. Wouldn't it be a Toys R Us kid? One of my vivid memories of Toys R Us is we used to go and I would get Star Wars action figures. That was my go-to favorite toy for many years. And before you ask, are they valuable? No, I played with my toys. My toys are thrashed. But I remember when they came out with the Death Star playset, and it was at the time, I mean, as a kid, it felt like it was as tall as me, but I don't know, it's probably 3 feet tall. And it had a trash compactor in it and a trash compactor monster. The trash compactor had little pieces of foam in it. It was so rad. And I wanted it. And I was young enough that I didn't fully understand finances. And I think it was close to $100, which by today's numbers, I don't know what that is, like $100,000. It was a lot for a kid in 1977. And my mom explained very clearly to me that, I had $5 today and I could buy an action figure today, maybe 2 for that price, or I could save it. And with my allowance, if I saved for X many months and asked to do extra chores so I could earn more money, like I could buy the Death Star in 8 months or whatever, like best case scenario was. And I was just like, and I still remember that because that lesson is one that I continually am surprised how many people don't really understand that idea of if you spend now, you cannot spend later. And if you want something that kind of, I was a kid, I didn't have a credit card. I didn't understand credit till much later, but it really was ingrained in me. Like, if you don't have enough money, you can't get a thing. And if you want to get enough money to get the thing, you have to work hard and save and sacrifice to get it. I never got a Death Star, never saved up for it. But my friend Ryan Tobin got one. And he was not my favorite friend at the time, but I maintained our friendship so I could play with it. But that only lasted a couple weeks. And then we got in a huge fight and I made him cry. And that was the end of our friendship and my access to the Death Star. Hello, Edna. Hello, High Noon. Smabodnik says, and thanks for not being upset that I am mispronouncing your name. It says, here in Siberia, the New Year holidays will last 12 days, is what we wish you. I dig that. Heinun says, grateful for this present moment of here and now, and now, and now, and now, and now, and now. Heinun, Gerbot, Edna, Sabotnik, Chris, anyone else who might be tuning in now? This is a message for people who are listening live, although you can still listen if you're watching this recording, but thank you for sharing this now with me. Good morning, Chris. If you were here a few days ago and you were curious about the book list, there's now, if you go to books.hugnation.com, there is a beginning of a resource list of books that I consider to be in my massively influential list. And feel free to send me suggestions and I will add them. Although I think at this stage, I am going to curate and include ones that I personally would recommend, but I'd love to have suggestions because I've forgotten so much along the way. Gerbot says, love to be here now. Be Here Now, by the way, by Ram Dass is on the list if you go check it. Now I'm going to show you that thing I got for Lisa, okay? It's a book. This is the beginning of our first date. And this is the words to the song I sang her when I asked her to marry me. It says, loving you is the best thing that I choose to do. And this is our first picture ever taken together at the retreat we met at. And I won't go through the whole book, but it's just tons of pictures of us smiling, laughing, and kissing. Special moments, special trips that we went on. It's got lyrics to a song I wrote for her. One of my favorite quotes about us, I'm not sure if you can read this. I told her once, you are so amazing. I must be as great as I always thought I was. That's us serving ice cream at Pink Heart. Look at how beautiful she is. So there's quite a few Burning Man pictures. Dates we went on Playa. Oh. And occasional funny quotes of things I've said to her. If you can't read that, it says, if I was in junior high, I'd have posters of you on my wall. Just laughing. Picture of us getting the keys to our home. Pictures of us this is during a live broadcast. This is a time we went home. We drew, and then we did this thing where we wrote a poem, basically, where she would write 2 lines, and I would write some lines, and she would write some lines. So I included that. And this is just last week. We went to this light festival thing. We have this big canvas in our house I made, which is a little AI fantasy picture of us. And then this is when I proposed to her. And then another picture from our first, this is right after I asked her out for the first time. I love it. I'm so stoked with how it turned out. As I mentioned, if I think of something that would make her life better, I get it for her, like the lights thing that I just got for our home. So when it comes time for gift time, like, what do I get? So I'm big on trying to make things personal and customized. So this year, I think I've been nailing it. Gravette says, so Pink, I remember that guy. Friggin' awesome. Warms my heart. Thanks, guys. Heinun says, I'm grateful for not finding that jealous as I would have in the past of this relationship, but encouragement that one day we can all find someone if that is our choice. I appreciate that perspective and your angle. And that, I think that's, Lisa says that she's been dreaming of this relationship her whole life. Not me. I never thought I would have a life partner. I never thought I would be married. I won't say never. I guess in my early 20s, I assumed that I would, but that was before I knew who I was. In my early 20s, I was still trying to be cool, but by my late 20s, I had hit Burning Man, found the internet, and I was never in a relationship where I thought I could live with this person forever. So it just never became part of something I wanted. But I did have the objective of personal growth and becoming a version of myself, or living in a way that I could be proud of myself and content and joyful, make a difference, find purpose. And a friend of mine gave me advice that I really took to heart. It must have been 10 years ago at least. He said, if you want to meet the person of your dreams, sit down with some paper and write down all the qualities of your perfect partner. Be as detailed as you can, and then take that list, put it in a drawer, and forget about it. And then dedicate your life to making yourself happy, because people want to be with people who are happy. And that's some of the best advice I've ever been given. Because neediness, longing, looking for someone to fill your hole, to complete you, one, it's not attractive. And two, it's not a recipe for a long-term healthy relationship. So this non-traditional path that Lisa and I have been on of having relationships over the years, but really not getting to a place in our own development where we were truly capable of being dedicated to partnership without losing ourselves wasn't until we were in our 50s. And now I'm in a situation that I did not anticipate or believe, wasn't even looking for to be a part of this lifetime, this incarnation. But I got to tell you, I am so grateful that it did. I'm so grateful. So much of the top lists of my gratitude every day include Lisa. I told her last night, I said, you know what the highlight of my week was? That morning when we both woke up at 6:30, and so we cuddled for a half hour in bed together. That was my favorite part of the whole week. Good morning, Manifest. Thank you. It says, love your progress, especially in the dance mode. Gearbot says, I love it when my partner is into personal growth. And don't worry, be happy. Be happy now. Yeah. Yeah. And and I know I talk about it a lot, but the daily expression of gratitude for one another is so significant. You know, like yesterday. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, thank you for preparing 3 side dishes for our meal tonight and your consistent shopping and cooking healthy food for us. I said, I appreciate the many ways that you use your skills and talents to be of service in the world. Because she's been working on her future concert series. She's been working on she's doing a singing thing in San Diego on the solstice, which if you're in San Diego and you like to sing, you'll get to experience Lisa, which is definitely worth it. Anyway, and then she was so flowing with gratitude for all these different ways that I have been tending our home. And I also drove her to drop off her car and pick up her car yesterday in traffic both times. And it's so nice to know she appreciates it and then to, many hours later, hear her tell me sincerely. It's gifting, you know? That was a gift to do that for her and to be reminded of that it helped, that it made her day better, makes me feel great. And that generosity, that gifting mentality in relationship and the communication of it through this practice or whatever practice is a life hack or a relationship hack, if there's such a thing. I don't like those terms, but I feel like people only listen when you call something a life hack. Gravot says, Lisa is so awesome. I so agree. Yesterday, I'm grateful that I got an email from Lisa's dad. In fact, I'm not gonna read the whole email, but there's something in it that I intended to share. He wrote me because he is reading Hillary Clinton's book called Something Lost, Something Gained. And there's a quote on gratitude by a priest named Henry Nouwen. It says, and And he goes, "This made me think of you." He goes, "I can choose to be grateful even when my emotions and feelings are still steeped in hurt and resentment. I can choose to speak about goodness and beauty even when my inner eye still looks for someone to accuse or something to call ugly. I can choose to listen to the voices that forgive and to look at the faces that smile, even when I still hear words of revenge and see grimaces of hatred." Sounds like that guy is part of Hug Nation. And it was so touching. I think it's the first time he's written me an email. I know, and he's not a big email person. And I was just so touched that he reached out, and my future father-in-law is helping to build this relationship. And the foundation of it, like everything in my life, gratitude. Hmm. High Noon says, "I am grateful for the safety I have now in this group and with family so I can heal the traumas that have stifled my growth in the past. It means a lot to me that I'm here. Makes me cry. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you feel safe. Teamwork makes the dream work," says Sean. Anyone else want to share any more gratitude? Yeah, isn't that a beautiful quote? And the delivery through Denny was really special. Um, I feel like there's something else big I worked on yesterday. Anyway, I am feeling very grateful. I'm grateful that I have a holiday party tonight. I'm grateful that I got to spend some quality time with Lisa this morning, and we'll go to this event tonight. It's a choir party, and I I gotta admit, when I show up to a choir event as Lisa's partner, that's like serious street cred. Like, I get unearned respect instantly. Although I will say, I've now become friends with many people in the course, and one woman in the course who I really like and respect, who often listens to these mornings, and just in case she is, Avi, you're awesome. Lisa and I frequently uh, speak of you with admiration and respect and appreciation. And Avi has been listening to some of these broadcasts, and she's been giving me some feedback and suggestions and that are so helpful. You know, like, "Hey, I was looking for the link to the book club. It'd be you should think about putting it on lifestudent.com." Like, awesome suggestion. You know, and then she's also given me some beautiful feedback of things that I said that were helpful. And it's now Saturday. If I think about this week, I should really write some of this on a sticky note and put it somewhere that I see every day, or maybe tattoo it to the back of my hand. But it is so important for me to remember that my moods cycle and my confidence cycles. And I periodically lose my disciplined crap or cone focus, and I get overly attentive to the evidence that I'm not doing a very good job. I still have half the spaces open for my retreat in January. And there are aspects of my inner critic that want to tell me Well, that's evidence that you do not bring much value to the world, that there's just not a need for what you do. Early in the week, I was having a little hard time working with that pressure in me. And then in the last 48 hours, there have just been these totally opposite reminders. It's almost like God's like, we want you to keep trying hard. That's why we're going to remind you. You could do, like, come on, don't get too complacent. And then goes, oh, I think we pushed too hard. Let's remind him that he's still doing okay. And got an incredible note from Avi. There was someone here yesterday who, when I read from my book, they said, I've read that so many times. My version is full of highlighter. I'm like, what? And just several really beautiful messages. I think I mentioned a former relationship partner that I hadn't talked to in very long was contacted by a client who had gone to my morning broadcast this week and was just gushing about how helpful it was. I'm like, whoa. And even the words that this person, that my former partner used in their message to me was, your ripples are getting out there. And most of the time, I know that. I feel that. I have total faith in that. And I leave it up to God. And when I say God, I mean the intelligence of the cosmos that is bigger than my ego brain. But every once in a while, my wounded parts do really appreciate evidence that it's all good. You're doing great. So I'm grateful for those reminders, and also I'm grateful for the little nudge saying, yeah, you could do a little better in certain ways. And I'm learning and practicing to hear those messages of you could do better without it also meaning you suck. That is a lesson and an attribute that makes such a difference in a person's life. If you can hear criticism or constructive criticism or suggestions and not hear it as evidence that I suck, then you are able to continually improve. Admittedly, I don't have strong skills in that area. I can be fragile, but I'm working on it. The New Crow says, grateful for friendship. Went to a lovely holiday party of a friend's last night and we sang Motown holiday songs together. And we each brought a gift to randomly exchange with the group. Super cool. Thanks for sharing. Happy holidays. Leon Nuroboros says, grateful for this channel and community being. I'm grateful you're here. Thank you for sharing. Heinun says, I want to give gratitude to you, Gerbot, and how I seen you show up so many times of the past year. You have made my day many times over, being you. Much love. Sean says, can I just come and pay no computer? I mean, I think you could attend like in a library maybe, but I don't know how else. Scrub says, I'm grateful for comedy and humor. Hallelujah. That one of the clips that I put in the Hug Nation podcast that went live last night was about how much humor is a part of my path of personal growth and spirituality. And all the teachers that I respond to are funny. Alan Watts, Ram Dass, Jacob Glass. I think, yeah, I laughter, like music and dancing and sex and delicious ice cream. These are some of the parts of being a human that's why we incarnate. That's why we take a body and experience a lifetime, is for to incorporate all these blissful things into our path of growth and learning. Yay, good ripples. Manif says, it's okay to have an ego. You just got to keep it in check. Very true. I had someone yesterday commented, I made a video about how the color of the year, the white color of the year is because they should have, that they were copying me. And I mean, I think obviously I'm being funny. I mean, my site used to be called cockybastard.com. I'm kind of taking the piss. And anyway, this person was like, it's incredible how you can make anything about you. And I kind of wanted to respond in a long way because I have lots of thoughts about that. But I just replied, thank you. Oh, actually, no, I did an emoji of like my avatar saying thanks with a thumbs up. Sean says, laughter is the best medicine. Alan Watts says, you got to live life sincerely, not seriously. And I am wholeheartedly a believer in that. That's one of the reasons why I'm so lucky to have met Lisa, is that she is a really devoted student of life and spirituality and music and all of these passions. She is disciplined and dedicated and laughs and has fun. And that's the sweet spot of that. To me, that's what humans should be striving to be, not billionaires, but to be ever evolving in their personal growth and spirituality, in loving more, in healing their traumas more, in being of service more, and enjoying the process enough that you can laugh as much as possible. Simon says, I'm grateful for my capacity to choose my reaction to any given moment. I love that. I saw a video where someone was saying, this misconception that personal growth is about becoming the best version of yourself. And they're like, no, it's learning to love all parts of yourself. And then I would add, and then once you have a healthy relationship with all these parts of yourself, including the jealous one, including the judgmental one, then you can do what Simon is saying, is you can choose your reactions. So something can happen, that part of you that is hurt, that is jealous, embarrassed, that wants to lash out and hurt. You can go, oh, that's this young part of me that used to be a really important protector of me. I love that part of me. I am grateful for that part of me, but they're not the most qualified to respond right now in this situation. Because there's another part of me that has done a lot of work, that knows that everyone's doing the best that they can, that people are often are always responding from the perspectives of their traumas and their insecurities, that I recognize my instinctive and the human instinctive need to be defensive. And so I'm going to recognize I love all these parts of myself, but now because of this, they're all these parts are in the light. I have the ability to choose my reaction, to choose my response. If you can do that, you're winning. That's easier said than done often. But I feel like if I look at myself, it is so clear that I have way more control over my response to situations than I did when I was younger. And I would even say that I'm getting better and better at it being instinctive. I instinctively go to my better places, better. That's not what I meant. My more mature, my more experienced, my more grounded parts of myself. Instead of getting activated and going, no, 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 this is you no, we actually we hear you, we don't need you. I don't that doesn't happen as much. I remember there was a moment that I used to think about all the time with my grandfather. At his retirement village, we were taking the elevator from his floor down to the bottom floor where the cafeteria and we were gonna get lunch, and so it was a pretty full elevator, and my grandfather is so friendly. He's like, "Hello, good morning, hello," to everybody, and he backed up and stepped on a woman's foot, and she barked. It was like, what are you good at?" And like, I mean, and it was like this mad, angry energy. And I felt in my body like, like bristled up, like wanting to protect my grandfather and let this woman know that she's out of line with. And but as I'm feeling this, I watch my grandfather just like slowly turn to her and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That was that." I don't remember his exact words, but it was something like, I I didn't mean to do that. I don't want to cause you any pain. My apologies. And it was everything in his energy was gentle and loving. And it's like, whoa. At the time, I was like, I know how, I think I know how to feel that reaction and soothe it and calm it, but I don't know how to go straight from bark to soothing and bypass it. But I think I'm getting better at it. Don't test me, by the way. Don't test me because um, I can promise that I won't react like a toddler. The new quote says, "Amen." That's like Bell Hook's definition of love, investing in the spiritual growth of another. Ooh, I like that. That's very, I mean, Lisa has written a relationship manifesto in the last month that she uses with clients, and it's based on some of the things that we have done as well as things she's learned from all sorts of teachers. But there's this kind of baseline agreement that I think is required for a spiritually evolving relationship. And it's like, do we agree that we are both here to facilitate one another's growth? And if that's true, that means that you're also here for the times when they get dysregulated, when they are acting from the parts of themselves that are hurt and young and traumatized. And so you don't take it personally. In fact, you are there to show up and be there because What we are working on together is our mutual growth and evolution. And sometimes it's messy, and sometimes it's painful, and sometimes it's has expressions of disrespect. But if you're there with that common understanding and agreement, the the temporary flares of hurt parts of ourselves are not problematic. They can be challenging and it can be hurtful, but it can all be repaired from that basic premise. Simon says, do the inner work so you can be at choice in more moments. Amen. Heinun says, I am going to find curiosity today when I see judgment and ask questions within. Gerbat says, emotional jujutsu master. I mean, I was never a master. I did take Aikido for 5 years when I was from maybe 4 years, kindergarten till 5th grade. And these basic concepts of the way Aikido works with the energy of the opponent and takes an attack and uses that for a throw, and doesn't meet conflict with conflict, but instead, that is deeply ingrained into me as a metaphor for energetic and digital interactions. Oh my goodness, we've been here an hour. It's Saturday, though. It's a fun time to hang out. Any last gratitudes or questions? I'm adding to these morning broadcasts, actually inspired by you, Simon, that last couple of days, I've been specifically requesting, does anyone have a challenge, a struggle, a question, a pondering, something in your life that I could offer thoughts or guidance or perspective on? Not because I am a grand master or evolved being, but I've lived a few lives and learned a few things and am in a place now of level of contentment that younger me never thought possible. And so I love the opportunity to share. We had a beautiful question a couple days ago about taking a spiritual cleanse, and I included that portion of the broadcast on the Hug Nation podcast that I uploaded last night. If you want to subscribe on Spotify or iTunes. X Gray says, find curiosity where there is judgment. Ooh, man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words that can dramatically change your life and the way that you are received by the world. Thanks for that. Let's end with that. Thank you, Gerbot. This felt really nice today. I have a feeling I'm going to use some clips from today in the next Hug Nation podcast episode. Thanks for being here. Thanks for helping create this container of love and whimsy and support and mutual remembering that when the mind starts to listen to the media or collect evidence of a cold, unfeeling, selfish world, that we know that there's millions of people out there like us. Millions more who deep down are like us, but are afraid of being taken advantage of and being a sucker. And so when we get to role model and demonstrate kindness, vulnerability, compassion, gifting, it gives them permission So thanks for whatever ways that you find yourself given a choice to be that person today. Ooh, Scrub says, I'm struggling with internalizing criticism. I want to just take the constructive feedback and leave the rest, but my shame is loud. I'm in therapy, so trying to use tools, but it's harder than usual. Ooh, great question. As I mentioned, I am not always skilled in hearing criticism and not being devastated by it and not magnifying its weight. I get 9 emails of thanks and good job and one saying, "You're full of yourself." And 2 hours later, the only email I remember is that you're full of yourself. There is some Byron Katie work around what you're talking about that I think is really amazing and really helpful. And if you're not familiar with Byron Katie, she is one of my most influential teachers. And she has this practice of anytime someone criticizes you, and there might be a few parts to this answer. So but that if your instinct is to be defensive, like you you're full of yourself. My ego wants to say, I'm not full of myself. I'm celebrating myself. I'm not at the exclusion of others. I'm not saying that you're worse than me. I'm just enjoying this experience of being alive, and I'm in this avatar. I'm centering myself in my life story because that's the only way I know how to experience being in a human body. I feel connected to everyone. I want to help others and be of service. But so I get that's my defensiveness. But her suggestion is when you say you're full of yourself, go, I can totally see the ways that I am full of myself. Yeah, sometimes I definitely am, or whatever. There are times when I am a liar. Yeah, I sometimes am deceitful in some ways. Yeah, and finding a way to find some truth in it, not because well, and then not be devastated by it because we are all flawed and we all have these aspects of ourselves. I find that helpful. But another part, s- I might have too much to say about this, but I used to be overpowered by my inner critic. And what was helpful for me, I started to really identify with a character, a part of me that was my inner critic. For me, I could trace a lot of its origins to my dad, who is awesome right now, and we're having a great relationship, but I have wounds from that. And so when I would personify the inner critic, and it would remind me of how I didn't do things or I could have done better or you always do this and you're lazy about that or whatever. Look, if I could if when I can make it into a part of me, then the perspective it is nailing me with, it's not truth. It's not, you know, divinely understood reality. It is a part of me that is, you know, giving me that. And what I did at first is I realized that I needed an inner cheerleader. And so I started to, whenever I would notice that, oh, my inner critic is loud, I would be like, come on, what would the inner cheerleader say? And it's not unlike a gratitude practice of even when things suck, can you find anything about it to be grateful for? You know, "Oh, I feel so terrible. Oh, I'm grateful that I have health insurance and I got a doctor's appointment this weekend." In the same way, when the critic is going at you, what would your cheerleader say? I'll give an example. When I was newly off ketamine and alcohol, I went to a sober ecstatic dance. And it was hard for me to go. I was nervous. I had lots of anxiety, and but I went, and I struggled, and I tried to and I danced for a little bit, and then after about 45 minutes, I left. And as I was walking back to my car, the voice in my head was like, "You fucking coward. You fucking left. You said you were gonna do this, and you left. You quit. How hard would it have been to just sit there for another hour? But no, you couldn't do it. You were so weak. You couldn't even last one night out of dancing. It's something that most people, they were having a blast, but you couldn't do it." And when I went and I felt that. I was like, "I fucking suck." And then when I was like, "Wait, that is clearly the voice of my inner critic." And I'm like, "Inner cheerleader, anything to respond?" And I was like, "Dude, you fucking went. You went. It was so hard for you to go, and you went to the dance, and you danced. You had to push yourself, and you push yourself, and you went to the dance, and you dance, and you get 100% credit. You fucking get an A plus for showing up. You did it." And it made a huge difference. Interestingly, when I shared all this with my therapist, they were so proud of me, and they said, "This is so great that you're learning how to basically fight and beat up on your inner critic. Next, later on, you got to learn to love the inner critic." And that's a longer story, but that's part of the path of growth that eventually led me to the shift that made me ready for Lisa. So I would say that, Scrubs, what you are speaking of is major. It is a hu it is do not judge yourself for having struggles in this area. It is so natural and normal. In fact, the mind is even wired in a way that it magnifies what's wrong. I was just talking about with like, I this week, had it didn't take any evidence at all of that critical to me for me to just, like, lose my footing, but it's a practice. And so another thing that I do is when I do have good things that happen, I haven't done it this week, so maybe I'll go back and I'll find these messages that were positive. I have a private blog where I just open it up and I post, copy paste things when I have evidence that I'm doing okay. And even if I don't look at that page, kinda knowing that my brain will forget, but I know there's tons of proof that I'm not a loser, I don't suck, which is what certain voices inside me are so happy to say to me if there's any chink in my armor. Sean says, I believe in Hug Nation. Love more, fear less is a guideline I use with may steer their discord into gratitude. Thanks, brother. Gerbot says, that's good. Recruit an inner cheerleader to counter inner critic. That sounds simple, right? But it changes the whole dynamic, because usually your inner critic in your mind, it's not your inner critic, it's you. So if you can just start to, it's almost like the allegory of the cave. You're like, you don't even know that you're looking at shadows on the wall because it just feels like this is the truth. That's the evil of depression, is that when you're depressed, you don't feel like you have negative thoughts. You experience it as your clear perception of reality is that it's terrible and you suck. One of the huge tools for me as I was working through depression earlier in my life, was that awareness, like, oh, I can't trust my brain right now. And this is a similar thing. Like, oh, all that evidence that I suck, that's because the part of me in the driver's seat is my inner critic. And there's so much I could talk about this, but in some way, your inner critic has been helpful to you in the past, has tried to protect you from taking too big a risk, trying to keep you from doing stuff, trying to shoot you down early so you don't get too vulnerable and to get hurt bigger by something else. So it's like, but that way that voice was protective at some part of your life is no longer functioning. Heinlein says, talking to my therapist about what might be being projected from their reality onto you has helped me sort out some of the rocks of others I carry. Nice. Scrubs, I'm so glad that you asked. Thank you. And follow up with me. If you're having any success or any struggles, follow up. I'd love to continue being in conversation. Manifest was there. Gerbot says, crapper cone, all depends on what you focus on. It's crazy how often I return to that. Gerbot says, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. I am worthy. I am able. Well, beautiful people that have stuck it out well past 10 o'clock on the West Coast. Thanks for keeping me company and contributing to this fertile and nourishing and healing conversation, for me at least. So thank you. Wherever you are, let's close this with a hug. So give yourself a big squeeze, appreciating these opportunities to connect, to bare our hearts and share our struggles, and recognize there's nothing to judge. There's this constant fluctuating path of learning and loving and healing. And let's remember that everybody's going through it. Maybe not at our pace. They might be stuck someplace, but everyone's doing the best they can with what they got. So let's feel the support of one another and the love of one another as we take a deep breath in and squeeze. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all of us here, thanks for being here for Hug Nation Live. I encourage you to subscribe to the Hug Nation podcast, even to just test it and tell me, oh, dude, why are you doing it that way? Or You should do this. I would love the criticism as an opportunity for me to practice everything we've been talking about. And if you want to join me for the in-person gathering I'm hosting January 10th and 11th, hit me up. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for being here. This felt good. And we started with Lisa too. What a day. Woo. Oh, Sean's reminding me I didn't sing a song today. Well, they can't be perfect days. Something to look forward to.